Two big stories happening this week that you won't want to miss. First, we're going to dive into how the crowds are changing now that we're in the discounted ticket eligibility period. And second, we'll explore the impact of Disney's new rules around the DAS program and that impact on wait times. Join us as we take a tour around the entire park, visiting every land and every attraction to give you the inside scoop. This is our State of Disneyland report. This is Town Square at about 1 p.m. on this very warm and sunny Monday afternoon. And now we're doing this on Monday. Normally we do these reports on a Friday. We did that last week for State of DCA. And I thought I was going to be doing an evaluation and analysis of the effect of those discounted tickets on crowds, but then I hadn't even realized or considered you can't use those tickets on a Friday or a Saturday or Sunday, Monday through Thursday only. So I made sure to make it a point of doing at least this State of Disneyland report, this first report, on a Monday to make sure that we can get the full picture of what's happening with the discounted ticket and how it's affecting crowds out here in the park. And normally I'd be walking down those steps right now as we get ready to do our vibe check down Main Street, but they're doing some kind of filming over here today. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's anything major, but it is interrupting our regularly scheduled program, as it were. But we got ourselves down here at Town Square on our way to Main Street. And I will say, as we begin this, oh, look at that, they built a proper queue here for the churro cart. I don't think I've ever seen stanchions and ropes up in front of the churro cart before. They must be getting ready for the parade and they have to square that section off. Probably nothing. Anyway, I will say in regards to that comment about how Monday might be different than Friday with respect to the discounted ticket, which it should be, but I was here last Friday. Anyway, I didn't shoot State of Disneyland, but I did shoot our construction recon on Friday, and hopefully you guys watched that video. That was published as I speak today. It was pretty darn busy. The busiest Friday that I've seen probably in a couple of months. So while I do think the crowds will have an impact, I do think the tickets will have an impact on crowds today. It may not be noticeable relative to what I saw on Friday. Well, we'll see. We'll see how much busier it is on this Monday, which has become the new Friday, the new Saturday, as it were, for the past, I don't know, year and a half or so. But let's fix our gaze once more on Main Street right now. As we segue right into a big open space here on Main Street. It looks less busy than it really is, by the way. I can feel a lot of intensity in the crowds right now. Clock says right there it's 5 minutes to 2. 1:55 on a Monday afternoon, and it is warm, as I mentioned. Presently 87 degrees. 87, which is the warmest it's been here this year, I think. In 2024, this might be the warmest day we've had so far, to my recollection anyway. I don't know, man. Actually, now it's lighting it up again. You know, we'll have to wait and see when we start getting into Adventureland and New Orleans Square and Tomorrowland and take a look at those tip boards and those wait times to really get a measure of how things are going. But so far, so good. But for now, we're going to reverse course, head back to Town Square to take a look at the reservation calendar. So let's start with that single day ticket calendar for June, and it's looking about what I would have expected for this time of year, completely wide open. You can walk up and buy a ticket today at the ticket booths out here in the Esplanade if you so choose. You can go online and buy a ticket right now. June 24th, as I record this, is wide open, as is every other day this week, and as is July as well. So there are no sold out dates on the single day ticket calendar as we speak. That's a pretty good thing. Which makes it easy for us to segue to the Inspire key, and the calendar looks exactly the same. Now that might be a bit of a surprise. It's a surprise considered, the recent history of the reservation calendar, but once more, I can just show up today or book a reservation and show up today as an Inspire key holder. The Enchant key and all the other lower keys, or I should say the other two lower keys, Enchant and Imagine are blocked out, which does help with regard to Believes and Inspires making reservation. But still, that's a good thing that they're completely wide open. As a matter of fact, although I don't have a screenshot, both Sunday and Saturday, as we went through the weekend this past weekend, Friday too, if I remember correctly, those all had same day availability as well, which is pretty rare for the weekends. So the parks do seem to be wide open today for the Inspire Key and Believe Key. Now, as I mentioned, that seems like it would be a surprise, but it's really not. That's pretty much how we found it last year, this time of year as well. The summer season, there's fewer Magic Key holders eligible, so that reduces the demand on passes. Plus, it's just it's a less busy time right now. We've been noticing in the park. Last year was June, it was dead last year. So was July. So we do see a pretty wide open or a completely wide open June. July is a little bit more competitive. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th are sold out for obvious reasons for the 4th and the 5th. Although they don't do fireworks on the 3rd and the 5th, so I'm not sure exactly why those dates are sold out. But then the Saturday isn't, which is curious. And then but the Sunday is. That's got to be an Imagine or Chankey situation. Although those are booked out for the entire summer, so I'm not sure what that could be. Plus the following Saturday is sold out. So as reservation calendars go, we couldn't ask for much more than this. I've had no trouble making reservations recently. This reservation that I'm on right now, I booked this one yesterday, so that's pretty good. Now, one bit of commentary that I'll add before we start heading into the park is that while the reservation calendar does appear to be completely wide open, that does not mean I expect to find an empty park today. I think it just means that Disney has made more reservations available for the summer season. But I do expect to find a fairly prosperous park this afternoon. We pause for the Star Wars medley. Awesome. I had a thought about the Disneyland Band last week when I was filming them for our Tours Departing Daily channel. We did a walk through the park, which that should be published already, actually. You should look for that. We should have published that on Tuesday on our sister channel, Tours Departing Daily. Anyway, do you guys remember when a certain percentage of the Disneyland fan base was pressed about Disney replacing the existing Disneyland Band with this band? They went with a band that was more along the lines of that, the summer band they did, the college, I forget what, like the All-American Band or something to that effect. I enjoyed this band a lot. I enjoyed it from day one, so I wasn't one of those, but I don't hear anybody talking about that. I guess that's why I'm saying that. I don't hear anybody today saying, hey, I sure do miss that old Disneyland Band. Although they were great. I'm not saying they weren't great, but people forget. I guess is the point I'm making. Time goes by and you kind of accept things. And especially in this era of social media, we need to have a little more patience and give things a chance for us to enjoy them a little bit. And even though the old Disneyland Band was great, so too is the new band. Let's go to Adventureland. I love hearing the sounds of the Tiki Room on our left as we pass by. This is nice right here. This is very, very comfortable. Our first observation is always this little pinch point right here. And that's even with a Tiki Room exiting, as I observe. I see no guests, or very few guests up there on the top deck of the Jungle Cruise. The attraction is open. I see guests, they are up there, but they're not queued. Interesting. Getting a little harder to negotiate the crowds here. Let's stop and take a look at the Jungle Cruise. And that is, in fact, a light Jungle Cruise queue. There is just a 10-minute standby wait. Nobody in the rear section back here. Very few guests on the top left section, and also very few guests in the bottom section, getting ready to queue up to the top section. So that's a dang light queue for Jungle Cruise. 10 minutes, even for a posted wait time. is super light. There are people yelling over here. Let's check out what's happening at Indiana Jones. Just a little bit of light action here at the Lightning Lane entrance. Oh, I do see, oh boy, there's more than a little there. Okay, the posted wait time was 50 minutes for Indiana Jones, and the back of the Lightning Lane queue, as I looked back there, was maybe 3/4 of the way down the ramp, which is not ideal. But at 50 minutes, I should expect to see this queue back here about 80% full. Let's see if that estimation is about right. Oh, they are letting in some standby though. Excellent. Yeah, maybe even less than 80. I would say probably 60 or 70. No, maybe 70%. There's this gap right here, but the rest of it is full. So yeah, maybe 70 to 80%. But you can see they just let in a bunch of standby there. But there's the movement that you're seeing now is Lightning Lane, and that queue is running almost the length of the ramp. So not ideal, but still not bad. I see people moving and there's gaps in the queue. So as Indiana Jones goes and as 50-minute queues go, that's not bad. But whether or not that's a queue I get in today will depend on what the rest of the park looks like. But if it were a busy day today, if that were to be our final estimation, that would be a go for me. That's actually a go right there. The reason why I say that is because the Indiana Jones competition with Lightning Lane ends at the top of that ramp. So really all you're trying to do is get through the outdoor queue here as quickly as possible. The rest of it is, we're all together. We're already mixed once we get inside the temple. So when I see a 3/4 empty standby queue, I like the looks of that. It's when it's super full and getting out into the Jungle Cruise queue, that's when I start to get worried. Check in on Pirates next, where in some of the past episodes we've seen no queue up here on the bridge for Pirates, but lately it's gotten a little busier here. Hi. Take a quick peek at Lightning Lane, which doesn't look too bad. They're not using all of the queue. It's not running all the way to the side of the building there, which is different. As a matter of fact, they've got it blocked off there for something. They're staging something over there. So as Lightning Lane queues go, for Pirates, that's beneficial. I'd be willing to guess we're looking at maybe 25 or 30 minutes for Pirates, based on what I've seen so far. 30 minutes it is. A very light queue out here, out in front of the threshold there. Normally it's a little bit more hectic in that part of the queue, but pretty standard like we saw just a minute ago. Kind of a light queue forming up there on the bridge as well. I'd be willing to bet this is not 30 minutes even. And there's like another crew, another filming crew up there on the balcony of 21 Royal. Hey guys, I wonder what's going on today. So much filming happening around the park. What are they getting ready for? Look at that, just a few minutes later, and the queue's gotten even shorter as we watch. Now this section has been cleared. It's empty now. Just the one loop there. That's wild. And I was about to notice that things are pretty light out here, just in the crowd-wise. You know, I'm not experiencing a lot of density guest-wise, right? Kind of light. Not much happening. Now, is it because, no, it's been like this for a while. I was gonna say, is it because things are getting progressively worse here at New Orleans Square? Yeah, well, that is a thing, but it's been this way for a while. So I don't know why today would be any different than how things have been. Just nothing happening on this side of the park, am I right? Yeah, man, I gotta say, if I were a regular guest visiting the park today, I'd be darn pleased with what I found. This is, so far, I mean, we're only 3 attractions in, 4, I guess, but this is very pleasant right now. I'd be very, very happy with the way this park feels and looks today. and I'm not expecting a lot to change, just based on, the vibe that I'm getting right now. In spite of the fact that Haunted Mansion obviously is still closed, as is Tiana's Bayou Adventure down the way. Although, I don't know if you caught our news today or our construction report from earlier this week, we do have a date, at least August 23rd. That's what Disney's promising, and it's going to be virtual queue. And, as a matter of fact, while we're here on the comms, I'll just sort of walk you through what I'm expecting. I'm expecting these walls to be pushed back. By the time that date gets here, I'm expecting those walls will still be here, but pushed back to where they were a couple of weeks ago. And with virtual queue only, there will be no queue, no physical queue out here, obviously, although you will still find people loitering. And as a matter of fact, right there where that door is, that's where I would expect the entrance and possibly the exit. I wonder if they could fit both queues in there, or both directions, right here at that door. They bring these walls down every night so that they can work out there, more freely, and they can bring the big equipment in. But I would expect this to be, you could send a concrete path that way, and send a concrete path that way towards the crypt exit. But that's where this is it. The guests would enter and exit through a gap in the walls here, without these walls coming down. And that's going to be happening no later than August 23rd. And for me personally, that's not a moment too soon. There are a percentage of fans out there who would say, you know what, if they can't open the whole thing, if they can't open the whole queue, then just don't open it at all. But understand, we're looking at another couple of months at least. It could be January, right, before we see that. Now, that would mean that the attraction would be down for a whole year. And, it's really affecting people's attitudes and people's feelings about Disneyland, especially, this part of the park, which is just dead. And I think that Disney's desperate to have some positive energy happening here, and I don't blame them, not one bit. Personally, I would like to ride the Haunted Mansion, even if it is just to get in there and actually ride it. It would be great for these guests to have something else to do besides having this awful dead end here at the park. Once you hit Tiana's Palace or Tiana's Place and then Galaxy's Edge, that whole stretch being void, that ain't gonna work, man. That ain't gonna work. So I appreciate them trying to get this thing open, even though the queue's not gonna be ready. I want it now, even if it isn't OG Haunted Mansion, even if it is the Nightmare Overlay, I'll take that. Speaking of our construction report, I'm just gonna go ahead and throw this in here while I'm looking at it. The way construction is going right now, they're building this wall, or they just built this wall, or at least part of it. And it looks, from the eye, went through the video, it looks a lot higher than the old wall did. But I'm looking at this concept art, and that does look like they're trying to make the old wall similar, or the new wall similar to the old wall. So maybe it was just an optical illusion for me. I also mentioned they were going to be running another wall, building another wall, separating the two pieces here. And I thought that might be a head-high wall, but the wall that I was thinking of when I said that was this wall, but that's not the separating wall. The separating wall will be another calf-high wall, just like that one. So calf-high to the Pet Cemetery, and then as you make that the curve there, and then the dividing wall also about calf-high. As for Tiana's, they have slowed down here. Production has slowed down a little bit. In terms of what I've been able to see, I see fewer crew working on there than I have in the past, and I believe that is because... What's up, hi guys, how are you? I believe that's because they pulled them to go work on Haunted Mansion, because they're now in the putting the gas down on finishing at least that part of the queue that allows guests to enter the Haunted Mansion building, the Haunted Mansion attraction. And then things are about to get a little bit worse in about 2 weeks. I won't even be able to make this trek from Critter Country to Galaxy's Edge. This whole path is going to be closed down while they finish up work at Critter Country, and the work they're doing on the Hungry Bear, that'll be closed as well, as is the Davy Crockett canoes, which are quiet at the moment. How do I take the show? Do I take my State of Disney report to Haunted Mansion and then turn around and go back? That really messes up my route. That really messes it up. because this path creates a full circle. Now we have 2 dead ends. That's gonna be a trick. 2 more weeks. And then probably a month or 2 of that. And then we'll have Tiana's Bayou Adventure open and ready for guests. So we're looking at just a couple of months left before all of this gets resolved, or at least most of it gets resolved. And that is not a good look as we begin our analysis of Rise of the Resistance, where we've been getting nothing but good news so far. This doesn't look great, although it's not as bad as it could be. They're only using part of Section 4, half of Section 4. Any part of Section 4 is bad for me, in my opinion. And that's even if Lightning Lane isn't very competitive. But Section 3 is full. Obviously, if they're using Section 4, right? So Sections 2 and 1, and the cave, etc. That's got to look like 70 or 80 minutes, I would guess. Probably posted 70 or 80, yeah. Oh my. So you may not be able to see it yet, but we have a huge problem developing here. I was way off. By the way, it says not 70 or 80, but 180. There is a 3-hour wait. That standby queue that we're looking at is 3 hours, and it's because of this. This is the most heinous looking thing I have ever seen for Lightning Lane. What is happening? That's Lightning Lane you're looking at. Oh my gosh, you guys. Was there a breakdown? A long breakdown and everybody's cashing in? That has to be it. This is all Lightning Lane. Oh my God. I can't even imagine. Like, why would either party want to do this right now? Why would you want to get into this Lightning Lane queue right now? And why? Wow, there's the back of the queue right there. So I have so much to say about this, you guys. So much to say. Heinous was the word I used, which is about right, because this is obviously going to wreak havoc, and it has been wreaking havoc because they've already reflected that in the standby wait time. They're telling you, look at the app, look at the Disneyland app. They're telling you, do not come to Rise of the Resistance right now. If you're a standby guest, stay away. They are screaming it at you to not come, because this is what you'll find. Why? Okay, I know you guys, if you're watching this, then you already know not to get in that queue as a standby guest. But I want to talk to the people who don't watch this show and who are in that standby queue right now. If you know people, if you know anybody in that queue right now, you need to tell them, get out of that queue. It's not going to happen. It's going to be a long while before anything happens for you. And it doesn't even look that bad. You can see gaps, and you look at this like it's not even that bad. You have to do the whole thing, especially with an attraction like Rise. You have to do the whole thing. You can't just look at this and say, yeah, I'm going to get in that queue. Oh my gosh, I just want to scream it. I want to scream it. Get out. Get out. Go ride Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. Go get in on Pirates, Indiana Jones. Go ride the Mark Twain. Do anything besides get in this queue. Come back in a half an hour even. Oh my gosh. I'm just beside myself with stress. And they're getting in. I don't understand. There we go. There's a wise choice. 2 young resistance fighters have chosen to fight their battles later. That's insane. There we go. There's a couple more wise choices right there, escaping this queue. Come back another time. I feel like I want to do another time lapse. Too hot though to stand in the sun right there for 10 minutes to film that. There's not a lot of shady areas to sit right there, so. But I expect that that's going to be a problem for a little while. And shocked to hear me say come back in 30 minutes because that looked pretty diabolical. But yeah, they can clear this queue pretty quickly. 30 minutes may be all they need in the 10 minutes since we arrived here. They've reduced it all the way from down there to here. So these guests are getting all the attention right now, and those folks are just going to be parked there for that, however long it takes them to clear that queue. But that it will happen. So that's why I'm saying, just, you know, you don't have to wait a long time. You don't have to come back hours from now. Just come back, you know, in about 30 minutes after they finish clearing that queue. It's already down. I can see right here. You can't. It's down from 180 to 150. So in another 20 or 30 minutes, I'm guessing that'll get closer to a more nominal or normal 60 to 90 minutes. That's why, Cannon from the Columbia, that's why you gotta watch Fresh Baked. Because I mean, you want to sit in that queue and just stand there posted for 30 minutes in this heat? Nobody wants that. You know what, just go sit. Just go sit at Docking Bay 7 or Ronto Roasters and get a Tatooine sunset and just chill for a minute and let that thing wind down. That's what I'm saying. Nobody, for the last 15 minutes, practically nobody got in that queue. So it's not like, you know, you're beating any kind of rush by getting in that queue now. People aren't going to get in there because it's posted at 3 hours. Well, 2.5 now. Heinous. And yes, I did take my own advice stopping here at Docking Bay 7 after getting a Tatooine sunset at Ronto Roasters. We're going to take a look at the tip board. That sure does beat sitting in that queue. All right. Alice in Wonderland, 40 minutes. Astro Orbiter 5. I mean, I would go get in that right now. Autopia 25, return time of an hour. You know, I've been seeing, I was looking at the tip board earlier this week a couple times, and on a few of those occasions, I saw Autopia at 45, 50 minutes. I was shocked to see that. So, so 25 is a little more standard, obviously. Big Thunder, 20 minutes. Light. Big Thunder, 20 minutes is light with a 3-hour return time. Interesting that it's that light and a 3-hour return time. That means they're selling more Big Thunder, or people are using Big Thunder Fast Pass more than they normally do. I'd be willing to bet, if we were to go back and look at old, you know, tip board reviews, that we wouldn't see a 3-hour return time for Big Thunder, very many of them anyway. Buzz Lightyear 25, return time of an hour, that's a little more normal. Casey Jr. 15, Gadgets 35, Dumbo 20, wow. Nemo 35, standard. Indiana Jones 45. What did we see? It was 50 when we went by before, but I thought that was a pretty good deal. 4-hour return time though for, you know, Lightning Lane. However, it is often the case that Indiana Jones has a 6 or 7-hour return time at this point. Small World, 30 minutes. That's pretty strong for Small World. Return time of now, though. Jungle Cruise is at 30, so that went up from 10. People saw that and headed over there. Matterhorn is doing its normal business of 50-minute standby with return time in just under 4 hours. Runaway Railway, a light standby of 40, but yeah, there's that 7-hour return time for Genie Plus, so people are booking those today. Runaway Railway is starting to assert itself over the past few months as a force to be reckoned with in the parks. Millennium Falcon is at 40, return time in 2 hours. I think we darn near walked on that one 2 weeks ago, if I recall. Toes is at 30. As a matter of fact, I did walk on. We were here on Sunday, and we did walk on. We walked straight into the Hondo room last Sunday. That was at about 1 p.m. Peter Pan, 30. I'll be the judge of that. Pinocchio, 25. No way. I want to know where that back of that queue is. Pirates is at 20. That's down. It was at 30 when we walked by before. Return time of an hour. Roger Rabbit, 30 minutes. And return time of just 2 hours. It seems like mixed bag today. Oops, sorry. Very mixed bag. We're seeing some really incredibly high stuff, especially with respect to Genie Plus, but there's some lower than expected stuff too. No real consistency here. Snow White 25, Space 1 hour and 5 minutes with a return time of 6 hours. That's about what you would expect for Space on a busy day. Star Tours 25, return time of 2 hours. That's kind of normal. Rise is down to 150 as we noted when we left. That was about 15 minutes ago. Return time in 2 hours. When's the last time you've seen a return time of 2 hours for individual Lightning Lane at Rise? It's usually almost always the case where it's now, but 2 hours from now. You buy a Lightning Lane for $26 and you can't come back until 5:30. Do you think that seems risky? 5:30, you got 4.5 hours you have 4.5 hours to use that because they're going to close at 10. Do you consider that risky to put out 26 times however many people you're buying for? Considering they just came off a ride closure, I'm assuming, which is why we saw the wait time or the queue that was for individual Lightning Lane. I feel like that's kind of a risk. And you have to make sure you're in the area when that changes your whole day. That seems wild. Let's get back to that tip board with a 5-minute return time for Storybook Land. I don't believe you. That seems impossible. We're never gonna know. I won't get there in time to see that. And that was it. We're done. I thought we had more to go. But yeah, so kind of a mixed bag with that tip board. A lot of weird highs and weird lows. Interesting. Well, happy to see a little more action out here in the Galaxy's Edge common area out here in front of the Millennium Falcon. Although it does look like there's more filming, even more filming happening. That's why it feels more crowded. The guest area has been condensed. You can see cast forming a wall here to disallow guests from getting back there. Although it does, those are regular standby guests right there. I don't know what's going on here today, guys. I have no idea. Let's see what's happening at Smuggler's Run. 30-minute standby. I can see in the window there that guests are moving with some ability on that's the final stretch before you hit the Honda room. They're gonna come to the end of that wall here and do a U-turn and head back into the Honda room there. So this looks pretty okay. Not bad for Smuggler's Run. Certainly a better alternative than Rise of the Resistance right now. Now, on the topic of the changes to the DAS program, the new rules, and what their impact might have been or could be on standby, on wait times here in the park. So far, I have to say, there's nothing measurable. I mean, we have seen some queues where I've been a little bit surprised that it's lower than usual, which would be the expectation, but nothing that I can really hang my hat on because the park also doesn't feel as busy as a busy day would be. We have a show. Now, before we get into any more analysis on that, let me say the reason why we think that there would be or should be an impact is DAS, Disability Access, uses the same queue as Lightning Lane. When you look at a Lightning Lane queue, it is comprised of both people who have bought Genie Plus and those guests who have the DAS service, the Disability Access service. And as I understand it, that percentage is somewhere around 30%, maybe 30 or 40% of that Lightning Lane queue is DAS users. So if Disney is tightening the rules, if they're trying to limit how many guests are eligible for the DAS Pass. That would then reduce the number of guests in the Lightning Lane queues, which should, in theory, reduce the amount of time spent in standby. Standby queues, standby wait times should go down if there is an appreciable decrease in the amount of DAS passes being issued. So that's when I say, when I'm looking at these queues right now, I don't really see a big difference, but again, it's also should be noted that the park, it's not incredibly busy right now. It's not terribly busy. I mean, ish. What we would be seeing, what we should be seeing, if there were something observable and visible, would be a crowded park, in the streets, but not so much in the queues. Now, I don't really want to use this right here because this is a very typical pinch point. So I'm going to get past or through this point before we start making that obvious observation right here. This should be, if it were a busy, busy day, and there were an impact on the DAS program, or with the changes to the DAS program, we would see a very busy park right here, very busy, but light in the actual queues, or at least more normal looking in the queues. But that wasn't too bad. This isn't too bad right here either. And the back of the Pinocchio queue, for example, if we're just going to use one observation, if we're just going to start making those measurements, that's pretty standard for Pinocchio right there. That's not 25 minutes, which is what the tip board said. That's probably 15 is my guess. But no, this is nice. This reconciles with what we've been seeing up till now, starting down Main Street, Adventureland, New Orleans Square, Galaxy's Edge, and now Fantasyland. Very consistent in all lands right now with what we're seeing. So today, I can't see any visible impact on the changes to the DAS program and on wait times in the park. It's a very normal looking 15 minutes for Snow White. Very normal looking 30 minutes for Peter Pan. And a very normal looking 15 minutes here at Toads. And once again, a light or even normal looking Fantasyland. I guess what I'm saying is there's just nothing here that looks anything out of the ordinary. Everything looks to be just as we would have seen it a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a month ago. It's all about the same. Continuing that observation, Dumbo is showing 15 minutes, which is about what we've been seeing in the past. And that very familiar looking Dumbo queue back here in the back half, once more, all these, the back third of the queue is completely empty and unused. Wow, Casey Jr. is pretty standard as well. Still running one train. That looks like it'd be that's 2 trains worth of guests right there. They'll condense about the guests right about there. They'll push those forward, leaving the back third for the second train. So that's a two Casey Jr. train rotation right now. Oh my gosh, I take that back. I heard it and I turned around real quick. There's a train. There's a Casey Jr. train up there on the tracks. And this one is not, we did it. We did it. We've got 2 trains on the tracks again at Casey Jr. This is a big day. This is a big day for me, man. That means Casey Jr. is an absolute go every single time. If you want to get on Casey Jr., it's a go, no matter what. No matter what, it's a go. 2 trains go.
Stand up straight, don't look in my face. Come on, look in my face.
I'm not used to seeing the evil queen out here in the streets this late in the day. Man, I'm in a great mood now that Casey Jr. news is happening. There's Mad Tea Party. That is a 2 teacup rotation right now. You get in that queue, you'll be on the second batch of cups.
Also, please keep in mind that food and drink are not allowed.
Alice in Wonderland looking pretty standard. Hi. I don't like seeing the queue out here outside of the normal constraints of the queue, but it's still not terrible. But things are getting a little beefier. If we keep going, it gets worse, right? It can get worse. It's curling around the mushroom, that's a no-go for me. It says 25 on the board, but it is not. No, I don't like the back of the queue out here. Even though I really love Alice. That's just the long queue for this attraction. You could do better. And by the way, that's a distinction that I would remind everybody to try to remember. When I say that's not a good queue, I don't necessarily mean that's too long of a wait. You know, that it's not worth waiting that much time, because obviously, you know, worth is a relative term, and all those guests are prepared and ready to get in that queue. I just think you could do better. I think that you could go find another attraction to do that might be a better value, and then come back and find that queue a little shorter. For example, when we were looking at the tip board, we saw Storybook Land at 5 minutes, and I would hazard a guess that that is still true, or at least close to it. They're running a full complement of boats right now, and there's the one queue or switchback going in that direction, and then 1, 2, 3. I mean, yeah, that's maybe 60 guests. You figure 10 guests per boat, you're looking at 6 boats. That's hardly anything. Of course, as I say that and was contemplating possibly getting in this queue, like 40 people come in behind me and they're streaming into the queue right now. So where we saw the back of the queue right here, now it's starting to get to be its normal. So we're just too late. We got here 1.5 minutes too late. Literally, in the 2 minutes that I sat there recording that, at least 2 boats worth of guests got in the queue. I was kind of on the fence about it anyway. If I was really serious, I would have got in that queue anyway. But it's just, that's what you get, man. That is what happens sometimes. Man, these walls right here are taking me back to when they were redoing the surface down here. Remember when there's this very narrow blocked off path down here? And then we were watching them build all this. You remember the mystery that surrounded this little path that they had created over here that was, you know, it's for scooters and wheelchairs, etc., that obviously everybody uses, but takes you back. Let's go to Toontown. I'm expecting it to be pretty busy in here, as is usually the case. What a great transition. Now, well, we looked at the tip board before. Hey, we saw 40 minutes standby for Runaway Railway, but a 6-hour return time for Lightning Lane. And a 30-minute standby and a much shorter return time. I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 hours for Roger Rabbit. I can already observe that Runaway Railway is no longer 40 minutes. It is 0 minutes. 2 red doors is not a good sign. And normally if they close their attraction, that one is 1 red door. 2 red doors must mean it's really dead. Yeah, if you see any doors shut on Runaway Railway, it's a closed attraction. So that's not good. Let's go. You know what's gonna happen. Everybody flows over here to Roger Rabbit now. So that 30 minute, if it was still there, it won't be there for long. And sure enough, Roger Rabbit's cartoon spin is now a posted 70. And I believe it. And it's been, I feel like it's had enough time. The Runaway Railway has been closed long enough to send all those guests, because notice there's no traffic here right now. There's no flow of guests coming from Runaway Railway to Roger Rabbit. That's because they've already done the migration. Runaway Railway has been closed for a little while now, and all those guests that were in the queue that are going to go to Roger Rabbit's already have. Sure enough, I was just about to say, so actually now might be a better time than getting in it before. And while I've been standing here shooting that little bit, it went from 70 to 55. So the queue is already starting to react. The reaction time conversation that we have here often, that we included in our 8 expert tips video, which, by the way, if you consider yourself an expert, still watch that video, because you're gonna learn at least one thing from that video. But it goes towards the opposite situation that I've talked about. The guests in the park react quicker than the wait time does than the tip board and the posted wait time out here in front of the attraction. We saw 30 minutes, you know, a half an hour ago on the tip board when we were checking everything out, and that was a call to action to get in Roger Rabbit. 30 minutes is a bargain for Roger Rabbit. So there were already a bunch of people heading in that direction. We were already too late for that. Then it hit 70. And it's been that way for a little while, I would imagine, as we were just observing. That was a call for people to stay away. So now the back of the queue is reflecting that. As a matter of fact, if we were to go walk into that queue right now, my guess is that we would find the back of the queue with no visible lightning lane action happening. We'll find the back of the queue probably about where the saxophone guy is. I'm not saying that thing is going to drop down to 30 minutes again. That's not going to happen. But it's going to be closer to its normal wait time than that 70 minutes. You're looking now at probably a 45-minute wait, so long as lightning lane remains to be not a problem. But at any moment, lightning lane could destroy a standby queue. What a warm and wonderful day it is today. People are really enjoying the fountain out here in Toontown and the general vibe. It is awesome. And by the way, Runaway Railway is still closed. Look at that though. I could almost do the straight line test in here, almost. Right now, actually, and we would be able to if you need a cast member here. They have the line to get filtered water is perpendicular, which is bisecting the path here. I wish. Hey, how are you? I wish there was some way to like gently nudge guests to not do that. Like, how do you subliminally tell guests when you get to this thing to not queue and that, you know, queue like on the side of things instead of directly out. You see that a lot at popcorn carts, churro carts, and I guess, I don't know, man. This is something that gets observed by somebody who's here in the park 3 or 4 times a week. You know, it becomes sort of obsessive. 20 minutes for Minnie's house. Looks about right. Mickey is at 45 minutes. Took a tour through Mickey's house in our last Tours Departing Daily video. You should watch those. No analysis, no math, no commentary. Well, there's a little bit of commentary, but it's just me going, golly gee whiz, I sure do love Disneyland. That's the extent of the commentary when I'm in the parks doing those videos, which I find to be delightful. I typically do those. I'll do a video like this, I'll shoot State of Disneyland, and I'll go around the park, and then I'll head back to the entrance. You know, that's usually where we always wind shows down. I'll go back to the train station, then I'll turn the cal. I'll sign off. I'll say goodnight. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed our State of Disneyland report. And then I'll turn around and turn it back on. I'm like, let's go to Disneyland, and then we go back around the park again. That's how I normally do those, and I'll be doing one of those again today. Actually, when we're done with this, I'm going to turn right back around. Hey, how are you? And take another tour around the park, but with an eye towards the magic and wonder of the Disneyland Resort, which is really the way we all want to see it, isn't it? So that's Toontown. I have some more thoughts on DAS service and its impact on the queues. We are going to do a little queue science here today. When we leave Toontown, head back to Fantasyland, take a look at the Matterhorn. In the meantime, let me talk to those guests who are DAS pass holders or who are looking or have tried to become DAS pass holders. Everybody had to reapply. If you had, you know, well, I should say, I think it did carry over. Some of the DAS users did get to carry over that pass into the new system. But a large percentage of guests are going to have to apply or reapply to get the DAS program. And I'm looking to hear from folks. I mentioned this on Twitter the other day, but I want to hear about your experiences. You can comment maybe here in this video if you like, or you can write me directly at freshbakedisney@gmail.com, or at me on Twitter, or DM me on Twitter. That's freshbakedisney. That's fresh with no E. But what I just want to hear is about your experience. I'm not really exactly looking for horror stories, although I am interested in hearing those, because I know that the experience is not pleasant for a lot of you. but I want to hear the positive stories too. I'm not trying to do like an expose video. If it turns out to be that, then that's what it becomes. But mostly what I want to be able to do is just to educate. I just want to inform people and give them an expectation, set the expectation, show people what they need to do so they don't have to figure it out the hard way before they get to the park. I want to prepare you. So I want to hear from as many of you folks as possible, like I said, with comments, etc., or email me, freshbakedisney@gmail.com. Let me know your experience, good, bad, or indifferent, and just I want to know what changes you observed and how they affected you. I want to know like what the experience was like out there in the queue in the Esplanade. You know, if the wait was any different than when you experienced. I talked to some guests out there today, actually on my way in, and they said, yeah, this is a little bit more lengthy. It's a little more difficult, a little, you know, you have to be in that queue for, on a busy day, 20, 30 minutes, which is kind of the opposite of what you're supposed to be doing with some of those, you know, people who need the assistance. They can't sit at the queues, but there they are in a 20-minute queue. Anyway, I digress. It's kind of comical. Comment. Email me, freshbakedisney@gmail.com, or DM me on Twitter, freshbakedisney, that's fresh with no E. As for Small World, it was posted 30. We checked the tip board before. It is now at 25. And I would say that that is more or less accurate. You're going to be closer to 30 than not over 30, but certainly not well under. They're using, hey, how are you? They're using about 65% of the queue here. And when they're using all of it, when they're using all this, it's a good 35 minutes. So that seems about right, 25 minutes. Each one of these switchbacks I've measured out at about, 4 or 5 minutes to get up at, up one and then 4 minutes back, 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 4 minutes, that kind of thing. So 25 minutes seems about right, plus or minus 5 minutes. By the way, if you're ever looking for a little bit of peace and quiet, cut through the mall. It'll take you over there to the Matterhorn, which is, it's a way to get that direction, but you get a little shade, a little bit of peace on the way. Not a lot of places to sit, but you can, park it on the ground, take a break. There is quite a bit of shade here. They used to have benches, but it looks like they moved those benches out here for parade viewing, which actually is counterproductive in my opinion, because it reduces then the amount of people that can, unless they move these for the parade, maybe it's the opposite. But I feel like you can get more people to be able to see the show without the benches there than you can with. Just a minor observation, but this is one of those not so hidden gems for viewing the parade. There's limited space, but it's a pretty good view, and you can see okay. If let's say there's a row of guests that are standing on the aisle there watching the parade, you can still see over them. You can kind of curl away around the planters there, etc. But I like this space here because it's just, it almost feels like you're separate. It feels like you're separate from the hustle and bustle of this path even right there. That feels like kind of madness sometimes. You get up here and you're like, oh, this ain't so bad. Disney's nice. And then you go down these steps and you re-enter the madness that is Disneyland sometimes, which I'm going to endeavor to do. As we arrive at Matterhorn, and I'm hoping that, hey, how are you guys? That conditions are conducive to our next conversation as it pertains to the DAS Pass and its effect on standby. There is the Matterhorn bobsled queue. Standby is poking out a little bit here from the threshold, but there are practically no guests in the Lightning Lane queue right now, just these 3 guests and the 5 that just showed up there. So that's great for standby. You're getting very little impact from Lightning Lane here, but it makes it a little bit difficult for me to visualize for you guys the conversation that we're about to have with regard to DAS access and Lightning Lane. I mentioned earlier that I've heard the number is somewhere between 30 and 40%. That the Lightning Lane queue, the queue that we're looking at here right now, is represented by approximately 60 to 70% GD Plus holders, and the other 30 to 40% being DAS Pass. So of the 8 people that are in it right now, 3 or 4 of them are going to be DAS. The other ones are going to be GD Plus. So using that, I would say on a normal day, that queue on a busy day, I should say that for Lightning Lane, you might have 40 or 50 guests a day, perhaps. On an obscene day, 100, let's say. We'll use that number. We'll use that 100 number for this conversation. We'll pretend that there's 100 guests in that queue, and we'll pretend that the DAS ratio is 40%. If Disney were to reduce the number of people that are using the DAS program by half, okay? They're gonna cut it in half, which seems severe, right? I don't feel like it's gonna be like that, but we're just gonna use that for argumentative purposes here. We're gonna say Disney's cut the number of guests in half. That means that this queue would go from 60% Genie Plus or 60 guests and 40 DAS guests. It's gonna go to 80 Genie Plus and 20 DAS. That's half, 40 to 20, right? So the visible difference on the worst day at Matterhorn is gonna be 20 guests. I say that because that illustrates perhaps it might reduce the impact that DAS users are having on Lightning Lane. If it were an obscene day and there were 100 guests in that Lightning Lane and Disney cut that number in half, it would just be a 20 guest reduction, which is, I mean, that's not a small number, relatively speaking. It's 20% of that queue. But is it enough to make a huge difference on how long guests are waiting in standby? I don't know. I don't know, actually. At 6 guests per bobsled, you could say that's 3.5 bobsleds worth at any given moment on a bad day, which it takes, I don't know, probably, let's see, what, three bobsleds, it takes maybe 30 seconds to cycle? Let's find out. Let's just watch this next bobsled. We'll see how long it takes to get the guests out of the bobsled. Just about 15 seconds. With a little bit of difficulty, 20 perhaps. Slides forward. And the next batch of guests slide in. We are at 35 seconds right now. And there we go. They're sliding forward. That took 45 seconds. So that's what, a little over, it's 2 minutes, 15 seconds to cycle those 20 guests. Let's say that remains a condition for maybe 15 minutes. As we've observed in the past, those really heinous queues don't last forever. Disneyland cycles those pretty quick. We just saw they were clearing that Raider or the Rise of the Resistance queue pretty quickly. They'll have cleared all that in about 30 minutes or less probably. So I would say, you know, a bad scenario at the Haunted or at the Matterhorn would take about 15 minutes. So that's actually about the expense. And on those days, by the way, when you've got that 100 deep queue at Lightning Lane, I would expect the standby to be something like 75 minutes at the Matterhorn, you know, for standby. So it turns a 75-minute queue into a 60-minute queue if you take out those 20 guests that are no longer using DAS Pass. It's nominal, I think, but that's just early armchair observations. I would probably want to do a little bit more analysis if there even is a difference. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm smart enough to handle this one. I'm really not sure if I've got all the tools to answer that question, but I can answer this. That's not a 50-minute queue. We saw hardly anybody in the Lightning queue, and there's nobody coming around the corner. This is completely empty out here. Downright light. That's a 30-minute queue right there that we're looking at. They are using a little bit more of this out here. 35 then maybe. 40? Can I just say, by the way, random observation, 45 seconds to cycle those Matterhorn guests. That's pretty great. That's pretty great. And they're even faster at Space Mountain, in my opinion. But 45, cut that number in half now that I think about it. If they're running both sides, you cut that 45 seconds in half in terms of cycling those 20 guests that were using the DAS pass. Because you're splitting the labor to two sides of the tracks, but 45 seconds. That's amazing. That's fantastic. There's not a lot of theme park. I've been to Knott's, Universal. There's not near the urgency that Disney represents on a daily basis here at the Matterhorn, Space Mountain, Big Thunder, all those attractions. They cycle guests quickly here. They are pros at it. So I never want to hear anybody complain about how long Disney takes to operate stuff, because it is light years ahead of. What was that? I did that observation at Knott's Berry Farm a couple visits ago for Jaguar. I was so shocked. Jaguar. They got 2 trains on the tracks and that's it. We were sitting in the station and then they sent us and we went through the whole track. We did the entire route and they still hadn't cleared the next vehicle. We had to wait. It was like 5 minutes, 10 minutes maybe. I don't know, 7, something in the middle. It was minutes though. It was several minutes, more than 5 to get guests, to get one train on the track and then to get the next train on there, like 5 minutes. Simple. All right, we have arrived in Tomorrowland at 4:46 p.m. People are getting ready for their early Galactic Grill dinners. That's a pretty busy little queue up there for 4:46 p.m. Normally this is when I would recommend getting in the queue, but you've got some competition if you're in there now. Nemo was posted at 35, but yeah, this is looking a little crowded in here. Not my favorite situation here for Nemo. It's posted now at 40, and most likely that is because they're running just one side. Oh, the monorail's closed. Well, that's no good. So now I can't go check, but I can probably try from here. But yeah, you can see that there's just a queue on the left. No guests over here on the right. Completely empty queue, so they are running just one side of the submarines. Much like that Casey Jr. conversation where 2 trains equals a go, always, no matter what. There's no doubt, no conversation. 2 trains is a go. One side at Nemo is no doubt a no-go. Don't even consider it, don't even bother, don't even try to analyze the queue, unless it's empty. I mean, unless it's empty, it's like a rainy day or something like that, but otherwise, no, it's definitely no-go. One side, no-go. And now I want to see if there is any reason why Autopia has been unusually crowded. I don't know if that's the right word, busy, I don't know if that's it. The wait times have been higher than should be normally expected for Autopia, even for a busy day. This one is posted right now at 25. The only thing I think of is if they are permanently closing one side of the tracks. And I am seeing 1, 2, 3, yeah, all 4 lanes are open. So posted at 25. They're using a couple of the risers back there. That's not good. I can't tell if there's any movement back there at the rotunda. But this is not ideal for Autopia. If I were here right now, I'd probably skip this one and come back a little later. You're gonna get a better value a little later in the day, but don't wait too long, because as the night wears on, as we get closer and closer to closing, and that could just be 4 or 5 hours from now, they'll reduce the number of lanes. They'll go from 4 to 3 to 2. So you want to be mindful of that. I recall doing a speed run once of some kind. I can't remember what the circumstances were exactly, but that's right. I was trying to see how many. Anyway, I thought, okay, it'll be best to hit Autopia later in the night because it'll be dead, which it were. But I was also hitting it on just 2 lanes of traffic. So while there was less competition in the queue, it still took a while because we had to wait for all those cars to go around the track. So you definitely want to be trying to do Autopia when there are 4 lanes going, for sure. That is, even if it means there's twice as many guests in the queue, You would rather have that. You'd rather have 4 lanes of traffic and twice as many guests. Hey guys, how are you? Than half as many guests and half as many lanes, by far. Waiting for that music. There we go. Before we go look at the standby queue for Space Mountain, I want to take a quick peek at Single Rider to see what impact this new setup, or if they're still doing it, which they are. And it looks like people are responding. It's just the guests there on the left against the wall. That's the entire queue there. So that's about 15 guests there, but there's also a secondary queue. You know, after they bring you through that little section there, through the restroom and the picture area, you go down the ramp, and there's another queue down that ramp as well. So I'm guessing another queue just like this on the other side. Maybe actually more than that now that I think about it. So maybe 45 guests total in Single Rider. That's somewhere in the middle of the range. Maybe on the the higher end, I would say. Maybe the 60th percentile. As for traditional standby, man, I'm getting froggy, man. I got to get myself some more water. 80 minutes posted, and I would guess it's going to be all of that 80, probably. And it's another one of those attractions that's just begging for some really serious recon to find out just how true that 80 is. We're almost done with our Radiator Springs video. We should have that probably, I keep saying this, but we're getting close. We're down to just the editing and getting into final graphics. You know, most of the editing, I should say. But that part of it is actually pretty quick. But we should have a Radiator Springs Racers hack video up fairly soon. 80 minutes. We're just gonna go ahead and check this out. I mentioned Radiator Springs Racers because, man, that was a tough attraction to measure, because there weren't very many occasions where I waited 10 or 15 minutes. I'm hearing somebody there. They are. Hey guys, busy day at Pizza Planet. Not a lot of empty tables out there. Okay. Oh, that's not a good thing. Okay, it's washed out right now because we're in the shade going to sunlight, but let me just show you that right there. You don't want to see that. If you have the chance, the opportunity to check Lightning Lane before you decide whether or not you want to get into standby, and you do see that queue, do not do what I'm doing and continuing. Turn around and go find something else to do. It doesn't take long for them to process that, but it's going to impact the standby queue for a little bit. It's the reason why it's 80 minutes right now. If you come back in even just 20 minutes, 30 minutes from now, that 80 will turn into 60 is my guess. Unless they have already factored that, because I don't see anybody popping out of this queue right now. This is encouraging. Oh yeah. They're using just the forward third of the queue. They're not using anything here in the middle and nothing in the rear here. So that's great. You can come into this queue often and find this entire space occupied by guests. And you know, interestingly, it could be a shorter wait time than 80 minutes. Because there's no impact, there's no activity happening in Lightning Lane. But because Lightning Lane is such that it is that we're seeing right now, it's in spite of the fact that this is a light-ish queue, relatively speaking, there's still a very long wait. It's still an 80-minute wait. They have already factored in the Lightning Lane activity into the standby wait time, which again is good for these standby guest. As a standby guest, you want Disney to be padding that board out there to 80 minutes, reflecting all that Lightning Lane activity to dissuade people from getting in the queue for a little bit. Right now, I would be staying in the area. I might be going on Buzz Lightyear or Astro Orbiter. I might be doing a little shopping at Star Trader. I might get some pizza or something like that if I were so inclined to eat Disney pizza. But I would spend 15 minutes, 20 minutes in the immediate area and let that 80-minute time do its work on dissuading people from getting into the queue. And then after 15 minutes or so, I might come up here and take a look at things. I might take a look at that Lightning Lane queue. I might take a look at the back of the standby queue and see if I haven't won. But I have a feeling it's going to do its work. I wish I had more time to come back up here and look at this in a minute. Maybe when we, maybe when I come down here doing our tours departing daily, our acoustic walkthrough, I'll pop in here and then we can append that to this show. That'd be cool. But for now, the fact that I can still see the, hey, how are you? That I can still see the back of that queue back there, that means they're still struggling to get those guests processed, and it's going to be a problem here at Space Mountain for a little while. Like a good 15-20 minutes is my guess. So I would go find something else to do. As for me, and what I'm going to do, go down these steps. Remember what a mystery these were when they were building them pre-COVID. They actually finished them during COVID. I remember that was the first thing I did when the park reopened post-COVID, March of 2000, whatever, 22 was it? 22? There were a few things I checked on, but that was one of the. I checked in. Hey, how are you? It was a Haunted Mansion, Snow White, and the stairs at Space Mountain. I didn't forget. I got a lot of comments when I did my first construction update post-COVID, and people were like, "Oh my God, I forgot about those stairs at Space Mountain," and I'm like, I didn't. They were on my mind for a year and a half. Yeah, I'm just feeling a normal day here, guys, though. Getting back to our other conversation about the impact of the tickets, the discounted tickets, and the impact of the DAS Pass changes. Hi, guys. How are you? Everything feels pretty normal to me. Across the board, I don't see this as any kind of, observably different day than what we normally experience. If anything, it's lighter than I would have expected, which I guess speaks towards the DAS situation, but I don't mean the queues, I mean just out here. Again, if it were a DAS situation, if it were the DAS Pass creating this lightness in the queues, we would still be feeling the pressure of the guests out here in the streets, which we pretty much are not. And I just walked by the sign. Buzz Lightyear is posted at 35 minutes. I'm not sure if I showed it or not, but there was nobody in the Lightning Lane queue at all, which is great for standby, obviously. And if that is the case and it stays that way, then this will not be a 35-minute queue. Although it does look to be going, they built an annex out here, and they're going all the way back to Pixie Hollow. So, still not 35 though. With no Lightning Lane, that's more like 25 is my guess. This goes quick. Buzz Lightyear goes quick. That's a constantly moving boats of traffic. Across the way, Star Tours, shockingly high, 40-minute wait. So just when we might have been able to say, hey look, Lightning Lane isn't so bad there at Buzz Lightyear, even though it was terrible at Space Mountain, it doesn't look great here either. 40 minutes is a long wait for Star Tours, and that is being evidenced by this queue. They've got the extended queue back there, the interior extended queue, not a good look. 40 minutes for Star Tours is a no-go. Basically, anytime they're using that rear queue back there, that's a no-go. Though Lightning Lane is pretty clean right here, nothing. Actually, the only two guests just went in there. Can you imagine that entirety of this queue right now is standby? That 40-minute wait, go for it. Star Tours, good for you. Looking good also is Astro Orbiter, posted at 20 minutes. It might be. That's 2 rotations. That queue right there. You like to see this queue anything less than half in these, these rows right here, the switchbacks. So you're gonna see about half of that. So anytime you're under half, that's pretty good. And I just went the wrong way. Guys, I feel like I'm going in through the outdoor right now. This is the way in to Tomorrowland. That's the way out. I just went out through the entrance, and I am also shocked to have heard once more somebody call Autopia the Autotopia. Why does everybody call it the Autotopia? Man, that makes me nuts. Okay, let's keep moving. Take our final test. See how easy it is for us to navigate the hub. If we can go left, it's not too bad. If I can go right, or if I have to go right, less so. Just one of the many nuanced visible differences or things you can observe when going to Disneyland, and I cannot. Although, it's just that one group. They've actually got traffic blocked off right here. Are they getting ready for the parade? I think they might be getting ready for the parade. So this is probably not the ideal time to be doing that analysis. I cannot believe we're here at the end already. Hi. I cannot believe we're already here. I feel like I just got here and we just started this show. But it's actually now 5:07 as I record this. We've been doing this now for 3 hours. Just about 3 hours to make our tour around the park. Winding up, hi. Winding up here at Frontierland as always. Oh, that breeze feels good. Presently, the temperature is 85 degrees. Sorry, I dropped my phone. Or I dropped my fuel rod, I should say. 85 degrees. 5:08. You might be hearing the sounds of the shooting exposition here at Disneyland. We still have ours. I don't know if I'm, causing anybody some. These guys have been following me around all day. There's the film crew again. They've been following me around all day. Everywhere I go, I see the same film crew. Anyway, Disneyland or Disney World, Magic Kingdom just closed their shooting exposition so that they can build something for DVC guests. It's wonderful. I mean, it's not like I ever, do you really ever go to the shooting arcade? I don't know. But still, it seems like a sad thing. But we still have ours. We still have that. We still have Mr. Toad's. So I'm pretty happy about that. I think they're closing their launch bay too, if I heard correctly. That's okay, you can close launch bay. I think Big Thunder's closed. So this is the end of our show. Yep. We've just witnessed the end of our show. Big Thunder is closed, so we can't do an analysis here. And that's it. Which means we can finally take a break. Go up here into one of my favorite little resting spots. Often it is, well, it's never this empty. I can't remember the last time I've been up here and found it this empty before. Usually there's at least a few guests here. I can't even do this closeout. Actually, now the people are starting to show up. Well, it turns out I was just getting a little intel on a fan of the show's experience getting a DAS pass. We'll be talking about that hopefully. We might be doing a video on probably we're doing a video on that whole experience and what that's like today compared to how it used to be. But let's wrap up this show. The State of Disney reports. Nothing to report as far as any measurable and observable difference in terms of the crowds, which the fact that it isn't a measurable invisible difference with respect to tickets is probably a story in and of itself. I would have expected more impact today. And I think that what we're seeing is that Disney's doing everything they can to fill this park up, because I think that what they were getting is that if they hadn't been selling those tickets, and if they hadn't opened up the calendar for Magic Keys and having a wide open calendar right now, this park would be dead today. It would have been dead. So maybe that is the story. Although, you know, through all their efforts, you know, and machinations to try to, shore up the dam, as it were. I don't know what the right metaphor is. Just to make up that they managed to achieve normal levels instead of subnormal. That's the accomplishment for Disney. I don't know, I hope. Or I hope not anyway. 'Cause I like it when Disney's doing well. I like it when Disney's a success. I like seeing that Inside Out is on its way to making $1 billion. Did not see that coming. I hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned. Watch our last State of DCA report. If you haven't already, watch our most recent Disneyland construction video where we talk about some, visible differences in the queue for Haunted Mansion, which may or may not be a real thing. It could have just been my perspective, but we'll see. We talked about that a little earlier in the show today, didn't we? And then follow us on Instagram at _FreshBaked, on Twitter at FreshBakedDisney, that's Fresh with no E, and on TikTok at FreshBakedDisney. If you like our show and want to show your support, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/FreshBaked. Otherwise, thanks again for watching, everybody. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. Fresh Baked.